Greetings, everyone. I am Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to pick number 3, or day 3, however you want to look at it, of my 31 favorite blind buy albums of all time. Of course, this is the theme we're doing all month long, where we're taking a look and picking out some of those albums that we bought completely blind in the record store, or at the flea market, or at the yard sale, wherever it might be, where you saw an album. You really like that cover a lot. Maybe you love the band logo. Maybe just something about the whole thing just looked awesome. You had no idea who the band was, don't know their music, or maybe you heard the name, but never listened to the music. So you said, you know what? I love that album cover. I'm going to take a chance on this. Maybe you like the 8-track, the way it looked, maybe the cassette, whatever it might be. But something about that album, that record, sold you. And you said, I haven't heard a lick of this, but I'm going to give it a try. And you took it home. And it was a home run pick, right? I know I've seen a lot of people comment on last 2 days and how, like nowadays nobody takes blind buys on anything anymore, right? So you can go listen to something first. You want to make sure that you've heard it, and it's something you really like before you buy it, because you can do that now. But, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, you couldn't do that, right? So I bought countless albums back in the day, just based on that album cover, based on that logo, the band name, or, the shop that I was buying it from, right? Or maybe someone said, oh, you would probably like that. It's like, yeah, you think so? All right. Well, that looks pretty cool. They have 4 albums there. I like that album cover on that one the most. I'm going to go grab that one. Did lots of that. So that's what we're going to do all month long here. We're going to kind of tell these stories about these albums that we really knew nothing about, but something about that album cover sold us on it, including today. So this is an interesting scenario here, because this particular album originally was released April 11th, 1983, recorded at Morrisound Studios in Tampa, Florida, produced by Dan Johnson for Par Records. But it was reissued. That was a very small, independent release. It was reissued just 2 years later, in 1985, on Music for Nations and Combat Records, right? Guess depending on where you lived, whether you were in the U.S. or the U.K. or whatever. I bought it as an import from Rock Fantasy in Middletown, New York, from Steve Keeler. That's right. And I saw this on the shelf. I had no idea who the band was. I said to Steve, I'm like, oh, that looks pretty cool. I'm not familiar with them. And he goes, oh yeah, new band from Florida. Really good. You would probably like it. So I took a chance. The album was Sirens by Savatage. And you know what? Not only did I buy this that day, I also bought The Dungeons Are Calling, because they kind of, I think they were reissued right at the same time, so he had both of them. And The Dungeons Are Calling is technically an EP, right? Although I think the LP I had a couple extra bonus tracks. If I remember correctly, I don't quite remember. But I bought them both. And I was like, I don't really know who Savatage is, but I'm all for trying it out, because I love the logo, and then you get this weird cover with these kind of runaway kids living in the, down in the dungeons or in the sewer systems or whatever. And this is based on a children's book called The Barbles Go for Broke, and that's all about these homeless children who band together and start living in the undergrounds, and all of a sudden they start developing pointy ears from living underground somehow. What that has to do with Sirens, I have no idea with this album, but that wasn't the original album cover, but that's the one that they put on for the reissue. So, this album totally grabbed me. Because it's really heavy. And there's an amazing guitar player in this band, the late, great Chris Oliva, and an amazing singer, his brother, John Oliva. And, I remember at the time, so this is 1985, so I'm a really big Deep Purple fan by this point. And I always thought that John Oliva was kind of like metal's answer to Ian Gillan, right? Just doing those shrieks and screams and stuff on here, so good. And man, these riffs are gargantuan on here, and blazing solos. But it's kind of like it's not really, thrash is just starting to really kind of happen in a big way in '85, even though the band had been around for a number of years already. And, like I said, this album originally came out in 1983. So is it possible that some of this may be influenced the thrash scene? Because there is some pretty fast stuff on here, like Sirens is crushingly heavy. I wouldn't call that really thrash. That's more kind of like early American power metal. But like Holocaust is fast, I Believe, Rage, Twisted Little Sister. Just some great stuff on here. Cranking riffs. And, but the music of Savatage never really fit anywhere squarely. Very strangely enough, right? And, they would go on to their release, Power of the Night. Then they would have that really commercial album called Fight for the Rock. And then, of course, Hall of the Mountain King, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. Gutter Ballet, all these great albums, boom, 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 one after another, Streets, and then moving into the 90s stuff. I mean, just such a great band who just released so many really, really great albums. And for me, this was the start of it all. And I just, again, really dug the album cover, loved the logo, and then I was more than happy with the results when I first started playing this. And I remember, I used to play Sirens, the title track, all the damn time, so much. And then for me, and again, after the next couple albums, and I went and got them all, when Hall of the Mountain King came out, that just totally did it for me. So, when this album came out, I mean, this, like I said, this was released in 83 originally, but in 84, when the reissue came out, I bought this and the Dungeons Are Calling first, before I got any of the other ones. So, just to get the dates correct. So Power of the Night was also 85. So it's almost like when they released Power of the Night in 85, then they reissued Sirens and the Dungeons Are Calling. But I bought those first. And then I got Power of the Night and bought Fight for the Rock, which came out in 86. And then Hall of the Mountain King in 87 just completely just blew everything apart for me. That was like the be-all, end-all. And after the kind of disappointment of Fight for the Rock, Hall of the Mountain King was such a complete return to the epic heavy stuff of this album and Power of the Night. And to me, even better. So it just kind of completely blew me away. And I've been a Savatage fan ever since. And so that's my pick for today, my blind buy. Savatage Sirens, their first album. But me buying it as a reissue 2 years after the original release date and just totally loving it. And then running back to Rock Fantasy to Steve Kale's I want more Savatage. I want more Savatage. He's like, well, we got the new one. And I'll take it. And then a year later, we got the other new one. I'll take it. That one wasn't so good. And then after that, everything going forward, amazing. So, yeah. That's my pick for today. Let us know what you think of Sirens down in the comments below, as well as your blind buy favorite for today, and tell us the story, where you were, where you got it, what you thought, and all that stuff. And we'll see you tomorrow for another one, right? Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram all the damn time as CDs go flying off my shelf. I really got to fix this stuff. All these CDs, the facing out is not working anymore because they constantly topple over. It's just the invisible wind in here just blows them down. I'm like looking what fell here. I can't even tell. I don't know. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, all the links are down below. Blah, 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 blah. We'll see you here with more stuff we got coming up in just a couple hours. We got Ken Golden and the Professor's Picks. It's Friday. It's release day. Hear about all the cool new releases that are coming out today. So that's coming up in just a couple hours. We've got tomorrow, we've got the UK Connection, part 2 of our episode on favorite one album wonders, one and done bands. So they only ever released one album, but that album, we love it. So we're going to talk about some of those bands and albums tomorrow. And then we've also got, we got tonight, 4 Fusion Friday. Don't miss that. And then on Sunday, ranking the albums of Artful Dodger. See you then for all of it. I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.